Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, everyone. While we'll wait for another few minutes, would love to thank you all for your time in joining this webinar, Why Amazon Workspaces and How to Unleash Its Power. While we'll wait for next 3 to 4 minutes, I would love to see if, just hear out where are you guys all from. Please type in your chat boxes. This webinar is meant for all of us together to learn and share and grow. So feel free to use the chat box on the webinar meeting invite where you can type in, engage throughout the webinars. We also have a Q&A box that we will, you are all welcome to post your questions, which will be entertained towards the end of the webinar. But I just thought while we are waiting and people are joining, feel free to engage, socialize. Why are we here? What are we doing? What place on earth we are from? So feel free to do that. And I am. Yes, so we have folks from Seattle. Hello, Bala, welcome. Hi, Shailu. Welcome. He's one of our great speaker here lined up today. Couple of more minutes, guys, before we take you through this journey of why Amazon Workspaces and how to unleash its power. Hello, Vital. Welcome. All right. One more minute, and then we'll kick it off.
Parul, you hear me okay?
Right. Yes, guys. Okay. 30 more seconds.
Parul, I'll start sharing my screen now.
Okay, welcome everybody. We'll get rolling. Hello, you are here for the webinar by Amazon Workspaces and how to unleash its power. My name is Parul Chara, and I'm the VP of Strategic Alliances at CoreStack, and I will be your host moderator for through this webinar today. Today, we have lined up great speakers who will talk about Amazon Workspaces, various use cases, and share info on techniques to make the most out of your Amazon Workspaces. Our first speaker is Nitish Tipperaju. He is an enterprise support lead, senior technical account manager with Amazon Web Services. Working backwards from the customers, Nitish has enabled many enterprise AWS customers through their unique cloud transformation journeys. He's a true cloud enthusiast and advises executives and engineers to design and build highly scalable, reliable, and cost-effective cloud solutions especially focused on end-user computing services. In his spare time, Nitish enjoys playing with his two daughters and has a passion towards photography. Our next speaker in line, followed by Nitish, is going to be Shailu Tipparaju. Shailu is the founder and chief innovation officer at Examity, where he leads innovation initiatives in solutions to effectively enable measurements of learners. His work includes research, exploration, discovery, execution, and communication of Examity solutions. He evangelizes and advocates best practices in learners' journey. A widely published author, educator, and speaker, Shailu was recognized as one of the top 100 global education pioneers in 2020. Shailu is an active contributor in interoperability, standardization, accessibility, cybersecurity, and works with global education industry bodies like IMS Education Global. Shailu's mission is to enrich and simplify people's lives through self-discovery and education, and is passionate about inclusive education, equal access, and ethical and fair usage of technology to help leaders bring value creation to society. Super impressive.
Thank you, Paul.
Following Shailu, yes, Shailu, welcome. Following Shailu, we'll have our own Venkat Perumal. We call him Venki. He'll be, referring himself as Venki as well. He's our field CTO and one of the founding team members of CoreStack. Venki is a techno-functional leader who brings in 20 plus years of experiences of working with Fortune 500 banking, retail, hospitality companies. We'll have a Q&A session followed by Venki's session. There's also going to be an ebook called Unleashing the Power of Amazon Workspaces that will be made available to you, all of you, during Venki's presentation. Each speaker will speak for about 15 minutes. Should you have comments, and I hope you have because we want to socialize, evangelize, and learn and share together, please type in your comments in the comments in the chat box. For question and answer Q&A, use window. Please post your questions throughout the webinar. I'll take notes and we'll ask each other at the end. Hope everyone is ready to get started. Nitish, welcome. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much for that introduction, and happy to share the stage with the Examity team and CoreStack team. I'll quickly start sharing my screen and let me know if you guys are seeing the right screen here.
Not yet.
Do you guys see my screen now?
Not yet,
Not yet.
Okay.
The life was much simpler, Nitish, right? Where we would just walk in on a stage and engage with real people, and the technology is always very interesting.
I know.
Yep,
Okay.
you can see it now.
You can see it now. Yep.
Cool.
Very good.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for being present here for this webinar. I'm Nitish, and thank you for that warm introduction, Parul. Happy to share the stage with Shailu, Venki, and the whole Examity and the CoreStack team here. I come from AWS. I'm a senior technical account manager, and I specialize in end user computing services and workspaces. And in the next 15 minutes or so, I'll quickly talk about Amazon Workspaces, its use cases, and go from there. Before I head on to my section of the presentation, can we quickly have just a poll question so that we'll gauge the pulse of the customer and the audience here. So can we quickly have a poll? You have a question that pops up in front of your screen, folks. Just take 30 seconds or so to select the radio button that you feel fit, and then we'll take the objectives from that and talk about the presentation. So 15-20 seconds from now. So how well do you know workspaces? Are you are at the beginner stage, or are you feel that you're well aware and you are working with it currently, or have you not heard about it, or this is or you're not using it. So those are the three options. Awesome. So can we quickly see the results? Okay. So it looks like 25% each in for currently using and know well. A lot of folks looks like you are very new to workspaces. So here's a good opportunity for you to learn about the power of workspaces, and also companies like Examity who have used workspaces onboarded onto AWS and their journey throughout this pandemic. So with that, I'll quickly start off with my set of objectives. Firstly, we'll start off with the current situation we are in, and the whole pandemic in place. We'll talk about the current workforce transformation needs. We'll understand how AWS and Amazon workspaces in particular comes into picture. We'll talk about considerations, the feature sets, and also how security is important for us, and how workspaces are a secure service that you can make use of. Moving on, we'll also talk about some of the best practices to deploy workspaces. Post that, we'll have Examity present their use case, and how they have unleashed the power of workspaces, and then we'll talk about the next steps. So without further ado, I'll quickly go into my set of slides. I wanted to talk about how people are making use of the cloud services to accelerate their workforce transformations. In a regular on-prem environment, people are making use of the compute, the storage, and databases, and they're looking for more agility, continuity, security. And with AWS, they are able to migrate their workloads easily onto AWS. With that said, there was a question on whether, what about our desktops, desktops that we have in on-prem, desktops that we have in our offices. How do we make, use of cloud and all the benefits that you have in terms of agility, continuity, and security that you have with any AWS services? You can make use of end user computing services like workspaces and have virtual desktops be deployed within minutes for your end users to use. So we are making the workforce transformation quite simple now. Some of the use cases that we have for the workforce transformation are, flexible remote working. And with the situation we are in, a lot of customers have their end employees starting to work from home, and that requires a lot of flexibility in terms of the VPN connectivity that they're using, the laptops in which the companies have to ship to the end employees. That's where workspaces come into picture. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. It gives you a rich user experience that can be used from any any device of choice. Similarly, with the latest technology that is going on, and heavy AI, heavy graphics intensive workloads, AWS provides workspaces as an answer for those computing costs, which can be reduced to have high specific design workloads. Similarly, optimized costs. Costs are very important that we understand. We as AWS provide some cost operation optimizations that customers can make use of. And finally, integrations. If new employees are joining in, new acquisitions and mergers are happening, well, Amazon's answer for you is workspaces, where the integration is seamless. Day one, you'll be able to have your employees join seamlessly to the domain and start working without the overhead of shipping your equipment, laptops and stuff to the end employees. With that, desktop as a persistent desktop as a service, it supports both Windows and Linux desktops, and you can make use of different end devices in terms of connecting through a Mac, having a Linux workspace, using your Apple, Android, and Windows end user devices. And basically, this service, Amazon Workspaces, goes by 4 tenets: agility, security. We also talk about reliability, and then cost savings. All of them are very important in this time and age. Let me quickly go into why agility is important for us. Workspaces is a fully managed service, meaning you have to, as the end users of Workspaces, all you have to worry about is, having your own image for deployments and managing the directory services and the GPO policies that you or your company might have. Those are only 2 things that you manage, but the rest of the things, such as, the host admin, having, a hypervisor, the physical security, racking and stacking of servers, all of that is something that we manage for you. So all of them are managed by the service itself. As a customer, all you have to worry about is your image management and the directory services that we talk about. So that increases your agility. We also talk about security, and security is something that is very important for us and is also very important for every customer. So with that in mind, Workspaces has a very secure streaming protocol. It uses HTTPS. All of the data is transferred using SSL. There's a SSL certificate handshakes that are happening. None of your data that is residing on, let's say, a laptop that is being used to connect and work, or the employees' data or the customer's data does not touch Amazon at all. So it has a very seamless, secure streaming protocol that we make use of. Similarly, data protection is very important. Using Workspaces, people might use their own laptops. So we restrict copy and paste, we restrict printing, so that any of the proprietary material that the customers might have is not easily copy and pasted. We have a strong authentication. If your company's security team mandates that it has smart cards, MFA authentication, all of them are baked into Workspaces, where you can install and make use of. Similarly, if your data needs to be encrypted, or encrypted at rest or encrypted in transit, all of these can be done using our own encryption services, or you can have your own encryption as well. So security-wise, we feel that your data is protected, and it's very secure, and that's the primary concern for most of the end customers. Moving on, global presence in this environment is very important. Having an SLA uptime of 99.9 is something that we have been doing recently, and we foresee that we keep on making sure that the uptime is 99.9% up. All of the Workspaces are available in many regions and many availability zones. And as you know, all the availability zones that we have in AWS are physically separated, that have low latency, high throughput, redundant network connectivity, so that it is, employees or employees of the customers can make use of those different availability zones, so that you can span your spread your Workspaces across, and there's more agility for you and reliability as well. Similarly, we also have regional resiliency and cross-region redirection. So it's a new feature that we support within Workspaces. So what does it do? Let's say if you're using one region for deploying your Workspaces, and for whatever reason, let's say that region is unavailable, there is an automatic failover that can happen to a different region, and region is like totally separated, physically separated. So all of the workspaces that are there in your region can move on to the standby region that is having pre-warmed workspaces, so that you can have a global footprint and it can be used as a disaster recovery purpose as well. And as you know, onto the left, I have mentioned all of the regions that are supported for our end user computing services, including workspaces. So we spread up across the globe. Moving on, cost is something that everybody worry about. So we, as AWS and providers for workspaces, have different cost optimization techniques that we kind of present to you. One is cost optimization monitoring. It's a tool that you can deploy onto your environment, and that tool automatically gives you an insight into the workspaces that are running and changes them accordingly, because workspaces supports hourly and monthly options for you, and you pay as you go for in terms of pricing. Let's say if there's a workspace that is running on a monthly basis, but it is not being used by the end user, once you deploy this cost optimization monitoring tool, it automatically indicates that this particular workspace is not being utilized as it should. So there is a potential for you to save costs, and it also converts it into an hourly billing model so that you can save cost. Similarly, we have auto stop policy controls that you can set in place. Let's say if there are a certain set of users that are only working for 5-6 hours, be it contractors, be it somebody who's working part-time, but still making use of workspaces, you can auto stop the workspace and auto start at a particular time, so that you're not paying a monthly price, you're only paying hourly price, which is much more affordable given the scenario for that end user. Similarly, we also have self-service support for the end users, which is, let's say you're using a particular bundle type in workspaces, and that particular bundle type is something that is not fitting your needs today, and you want to change it. The usual process is, what companies adapt is there's a ticketing process system. It goes to the IT administrators back, and they change the bundle and again provision it and give it back to the end users. In this case, Workspace supports self-service. It's a portal that you can deploy, and the end user can just go into the portal, do all the administrative tasks of restarting a workspace, rebooting a workspace, rebuilding a workspace, or changing the bundle type. That can also be done. So that saves costs by not having a dedicated IT team who does these administrative tasks. So these are some of the cost savings opportunities around using workspaces. With that, I quickly want to talk about some of the best practices that we recommend to make to deploy workspaces. Obviously, we start off with selecting the bundle type that fits your needs, selecting the bundle that is good on different use cases that you have. That's something that you start off with. Secondly, you build your networking around it. By networking, I'm talking about VPCs, route tables, NAT gateways that you build, so that the workspaces can be deployed within your VPC. The next best practice is around image management. You can create images within workspaces. And for example, let's say you have a dev team who use a particular spec and a particular type of a bundle for building their applications. Then you might have your QA team who has a different set of requirements, so they might require a different image. You might have executives who require a different image that they want to log into. So all of this image management is something that that relies as a responsibility for the end customer. So make sure you have the right image management for your use cases. Make sure that you verify the running mode. Monthly can be beneficial for some users, hourly can be beneficial for some users, and auto stop workspaces can be beneficial for the others. So make sure you verify the running mode of the workspace before you deploy, and then deploy the workspaces. Finally, directory services All of the workspaces can be a part of your directory. All of the workspaces can be on your domain. So make sure that you have your directory services set up in place. You have all your GPOs that you're making use of in currently running in place, and make sure all the best practices are being followed in terms of your domain management. Once you have all that in place, you can quickly deploy workspaces within minutes. You will have a rich user experience that you can provide to your end users, and have a seamless connection from a device of their own choice. That's the flexibility that WorkSpaces has to offer. With that, we have Examity, who have used WorkSpaces, who had a good journey with AWS, talk about how their journey was and how they deployed workspaces and how what their use case was. So with that, I will give it to Shailu. Shailu, thank you so much for joining, and we would like to listen to Examity's use case on using workspaces.
Thank you so much, Nitish. As an educator, one thing we believe is a good conversation at least leaves you with one good learning. A great conversation actually leaves you with one good action item you could take away and put to use. In the last 20 years, given at least 4 things I've learned, and probably 4 I can put to action. So from a Amazon promise to delivery, I can tell you as an Examity customer, with you as a provider, we have had a phenomenal experience in consumption of workspaces. But let me double click on what Examity does for the audience to kind of get a context of, there's an awesome toolkit from Amazon. What does Examity do? And as a founder, it kind of is fascinating for me to see. We do 3 things, which are the pillars of online learning. All of us at one point have taken a test. Some have experienced going into a test center, verifying your identity and taking a test. The digital transformation of that in the online space of online proctoring is what Examity does. Verify the identity of the user, give the event integrity of the rules of parameters set up for the test, wherever it is housed, and third, the content security, the user data, the exam data. If we think about Examity, the key cornerstones on what we have done, and we could switch to the slide of Examity, Venki, when you get a chance, so we can cover those 3 dimensions on Examity side, which is what Examity has done from our perspective in using the Amazon workspaces. Essentially has brought 3 important dimensions of Examity. One would be the scale of what we do. We proctor millions of exams globally. When we talk about the global context, essentially it means it could be in any geography. It is 24/7, and it is essentially delivered by Examity's proctoring services side on the operations, powered by technology, which means from a workspaces, not only does the customer have a choice from going to any location of their choice, home, office, or other, and take a test without being at a test center. Examity has, on the operational side, providing a similar infrastructure on our end, which is the operational staff need to have something that's an on-demand, what I call for the executives who asks me what a workspace is. It's a classic digital desktop. You could spin it up when you need, with the pointers of agility that Nitish has mentioned, security that it encompasses, and the flexibility and globality. Think of exactly what Examity is promising to its customers. You could be taking a midterm at 3 a.m. or an Adobe certification at 4 p.m. or a GMAT test at 6 a.m. in any part of the globe. We provide the digital workspaces, digital desktops for our operational staff who are providing proctoring, technology support, and operational support to give that flawless learning validation experience. So from the Amazon perspective, they are giving us as a provider a workspace or workspaces you can spin on demand into many thousands. So we can proctor those many millions of exams. It's a classic synchronization of efficiency on one end and effectiveness on the other. Let me double click on each one. When we speak about efficiency as a provider, there are 2 metrics which are very, very critical as we deliver our proctoring. how seamless has been the user experience for someone taking a test, because we are an enabler of online tests. Their performance in the test is indicative of how fast they were onboarded into the exam. That is Examity's efficiency metric. On the operational side, their efficiency is the throughput of how many exams are we able to proctor by spinning up these digital desktops and app streams on our end. And what we have done in terms of efficiency is looked at throughput, looked at the financial efficiency, looked at the security aspects of it. From a tactical and strategic, we want to walk away with effectiveness of, have we been able to create the on-demand delivery at scale, because these demands ebb and flow. In a given window, for example, Q4 of the year, highest number of certifications go through the cycle, highest number of exams are taken by test takers across academic and enterprise. And we have over 500 customers who actively engage. And from our perspective, there's an awesome toolkit from Amazon. This was probably, I think, a year and a half before we began the journey with Amazon. I remember specifically Nitish explaining what he did. Our state of mind was not the same as it is right now. We had experienced something unprecedented in terms of demand. We needed something that was coming at a velocity that we needed to adapt very quickly. They helped us walk through and onboard, removing the physical desktops that somebody had to go to and bring it to their environment, including at home. Having a great provider with an amazing use case of a customer will not be sufficient without a partner who understands the language. In the last 18 months, obviously, we had the benefit of understanding the language. Our internal staff now speaks the language of what a gold copy means. Nitish had one of the slides where you create a copy that is efficient for a proctoring team, a copy that is efficient for an engineering team, a copy that is efficient for technology support team. We just had to make sure each of these copies are spun up and down on demand in an elastic way, keeping the costs, efficiency, and security so that the CFO, the CISO, the CIO, and the board are all satisfied. We are able to operationally deliver at margins, at the same token, not compromise on the user experience. Our partner that we went with, in terms of someone who understands the language of digital transformation, CoreStack, gave us those pointers, guidance. They were kind of the GPS. If Amazon was the vehicle with all these bells and whistles, which we did not understand, they almost gave us an autopilot driver mode, but kept us on the driver's seat to make sure that we feel in control of the outcomes, we feel in control of the delivery. But they were the right partner we had chosen to help us navigate the journey, help us understand the cloud language, because our application was in one infrastructure, our operation was in another infrastructure, and the delivery was a combination of these. I believe it's not unusual for any company right now to be in multiple cloud environments. Specifically on the WorkSpaces usage of Amazon, CoreStack, which Venki will cover for us, gave us those directional insights into understanding the customer's business was something they helped us with in a multi-cloud, understanding optimizing it, but at the same token, ensuring that the benchmarks and the KPIs we set for customer excellence, they were at no point less than expectations, but exceed expectations. Now, in summary, if I think about how the last year and a half played out, the customers appreciated that we responded very, very rapidly. What takes months and months of projects translated to instant delivery of digital operational scaling, both vertically and horizontally. The experience of what we were able to deliver was secure. It has passed through several security audits, and it kept our financial teams satisfied because we were able to save a significant amount of money right off the bat. Using these without the levers of how to navigate them can be risky from financial operational metrics. And what CoreStack had done for us is understand the language, execute the parameters, and in a more repeatable way, and give us some analytics that we can take to the board. As me, internally to our teams, externally to the industry, say that we have come through not just smarter, but more innovative. And as a chief innovation officer, one of the key things I have a responsibility is forward looking, what is happening tomorrow. I think the pandemic kind of pushed everyone to the pool. People were considering online proctoring, online learning. It became almost a mandate. I don't think any one of us is excluded from that getting pushed in. But having partners like this CoreStack on one end, having a provider on the other end with Amazon, and having really people who believed in our journey, believing in our mission to the consumer, helping us in this journey of both learning experiences with flawless customer experience was brought to the fore. Wanted to kind of hand it to Venki from a provider on one end with high delivery, customer on the other end with high demand. How did you bring that together? We'd love to use us as an example so other participants here can share the journey, learn from it, and reuse it so they can do the same benefits that we have brought to the industry in the education space. Over to you, Venki. Thank you.
Thanks, Shailu. Thanks for explaining the pain points that you went through and how CoreStack as a platform helped in scaling the business also, right? And Nitish, thank you so much for setting the ground in terms of why workspace from a various use case perspective is also equally important in the new age, space, right? Wherein COVID really, as Shailu said, and everything moved into the pool. How do we make sure that everyone who uses the online services with respect to Amazon workspaces, how can they do it, use it much more efficiently? Now, before I do that, we just want to do a poll question with respect to, what is that, from a cost optimization perspective, what are you looking at? It'll just pop up. We'll just give you 30 seconds. Just go ahead and, select the one that may seem fit for you. Okay. All right, let's look at the poll results. Obviously, everyone loves to go ahead and, optimize the infrastructure that you are using. And that is always the number one priority for every organization, because as you continue to consume and adopt cloud, I think one of the key aspects is how can we move every organization from being reactive to being proactive. I think that's the norm of today's world itself. Now, that being said, thank you so much for taking the polling question. A quick overview on what CoreStack is. CoreStack is a continuous and autonomous cloud governance platform. What it really does, it has changed the entire game of looking at everything reactive into a proactive way. And how can we really be proactive is essentially to take the governance first strategy. And that's what CoreStack really does. And the whole, it's no more management, right? If I am able to set everything in control, then the management becomes much more easier, because now you are able to find out where am I really drifting, right? Now, even more important is how can we be efficient with respect to consuming the various services natively with respect to AWS, because when you look at AWS with Amazon workspaces, you also get other supporting services, right? You get AWS CloudTrail, you get AWS CloudWatch. How do we consume data? We all know that data is gold, right? How do we make sure that we consume data and provide you intelligent insight to implement optimization recommendation? Now, more importantly, in the last 2 years, you would have seen AWS is pushing hard a principle of what they call as well-architected framework. And why? Because today, everyone has started, 2 years back, everyone started lifting and shifting the workloads, right? That definitely gave a lot of issues, because now you're looking at, okay, while I have lifted and shifted the workloads, how can I now optimize? Because now you are not thinking futuristic. Now you're actually talking about fixing the issue which you are currently facing because you did lift and shift. right? And always it's a shared responsibility. These all 5 pillars, which is operational excellence, security, cost optimization, reliability, and performance efficiency. If I take care of all these things, my workload with respect to Amazon Workspaces will be optimized, right? And if I have to bundle all these 3 things into 3 key pillars, they fall under CloudOps, SecOps, and FinOps, right? And that's how CoreStack as a platform really helps the customers to align and implement well-architected framework, but not from a one-time perspective, but more from a continuous journey perspective. And how do we make it continuous? I'll go through as we move to the next slide. Now, let's dive deep into, what does really FinOps mean? We've been talking about FinOps in the industry for last couple of months, and it essentially helps us implement the, a culture of financial accountability. And how does it really matter with workspaces? Because now we are able to monitor the cost trend as to how am I consuming, but after that, how can I use the data and provide you optimization recommendation? How can I have continuously check the workspaces that I'm using or not using? So unused workspaces has a huge value add because employees are coming in, going out, the resources are used, not used. So we want to make sure that every time a continuous policy runs and ensures that workspaces, whether they are used or not used, and provide you the recommendation to go ahead and take necessary action, right? So it's not just reporting that, hey, 10 workspaces are not in use, but also allowing you to go ahead and take action. So there are use cases where we also talk about underutilized workspaces, because many of the time we go ahead and provision a workspace thinking that, I will use all of the user volumes, I will use all of the disk volume, but end up not using the ones that I really want, right? Now, how can I ensure that I optimize my usage and have a recommendation which can basically recommend stating that, you can have user volume, which is 30 GB, and, disk volume, which is probably 50 GB, which is more than enough for your business to run at the optimal level, right? And the same goes with underutilized disks. And more importantly, now coming to, a billing option. Like Nitish said, Amazon does provide you a billing option, which is one, if you set it as auto shutdown. So whenever you're using it, automatically shutdowns, but whenever you're not using it, automatically comes up, right? So, or whenever you're using it, automatically turns on. But the important thing to look at there is a threshold, right? If the number of hours that you utilize is 85 hours and more, it automatically converts into a monthly billing. Now, how can we use that particular data of utilization and provide you recommendation to, at the end of the month, before the end of the month, I can go ahead and implement that change so that now all of the workspaces that are currently running can run either on the auto shutdown mode or can run on a monthly billing mode, right? Because if you also have to understand how does the billing of AWS Workspace works, that is precisely, it's very important because every workspace gets billed at the beginning of the month. So if you don't implement these recommendations at the end of the month, then of course we have to go and talk to Amazon, do all the pro rata things. But if we have the capability to automate all these things and implement at the last week of the month, so that the next month you're already optimized and you start seeing the benefit of these recommendations on day one. Now coming to the last part, which I think everyone knows about it, tagging is a huge value add, right? Shailu, from an Examity perspective, they were running more than 3,000 plus workspaces. Now, how do we ensure that they can clearly have the visibility into, this set of workspaces used for this proctoring and this set of the workspaces used for this particular customer? How can we do that on a continuous basis? So a tagging compliance recommendation is also part of the FinOps. If you implement it, I think the entire options of how you can streamline your FinOps from a cost visibility, cost optimization, and cost operations can be done in a much more optimized way. Yeah. Moving on to the next one, which is even more important, is we understand you are provisioning it, right? Today, and it's a dynamic world. We do understand today you will require 100, tomorrow you will probably require 1,000. Now, how do we make sure that you have all the automations in place to make sure that every workspace that you define becomes a template? Now you're not going through the portal, looking at what option is best for me. You're not doing that, primarily because now everything is templatized. Now you can go ahead and trigger the template to provision one workspace or provision 10,000 workspace. Everything is now standard. Now, because we introduce standardization, it automatically has a positive impact on your FinOps visibility, right? And that's why I always tell that when you, every module that I spoke about, they are all interrelated. If I start looking at cost as a separate module, I do not have the visibility of how I'm provisioning the resources, because if I don't provision the resources properly, my optimization is going to really have a problem, right? And the same goes with if I don't provision the resource properly, I will also have issues with my security. Yeah. And more importantly, every workspace that gets deployed and provisioned, we also want to make sure that they are configured for the right metrics. Utilization metrics, all those things are very, very important, because we are also looking at how can we also make it so intelligent that based on the runtime, can I automatically go ahead and switch it on and switch it off, right? A user comes in, they always work, don't know whether they work from 9 to 12 or they can work from 6 to 9. It doesn't matter. But if I'm able to capture the utilization data, I'm able to now provide you recommendation based on runtime that, hey, this user, this workspace is always on only for 3 hours. Let's go ahead and enable auto shutdown mode. Yeah, so that's how you can literally scale the entire operations. But more importantly, CoreStack is also very cloud native, because we support CloudFormation template. We take the power of CloudFormation template, make sure that that template helps you build these workspaces in a much more scalable option, and also take care of all of the required best practices that can be implemented. CoreStack as a platform, we are also integrating with Amazon Systems Manager, which basically takes care of the entire management. Now, if you want to do a patching, you want to go deploy something in Workspace, everything is now centralized. So your operations is now, you can plan it properly, you can go ahead and manage it properly, right? So all of the day zero is taken care by your governance controls, and all of your day one, day two is all taken by your management controls. Now, the third module, which is near and dear for everyone, right? First is cost, second is security, or first is security, second is cost. Always there's a game between the security and cost. How do we ensure that every workspace that gets provisioned also adheres to your standard, right? Because every organization has their own internal IT security controls. Now, how do I make sure that every part of the workspace that I provision matches with the control that I have as an organization, or I have to comply to a regulatory compliance? We do know that Amazon Workspace is a managed services, but also equally important, when I am provisioning it, I can forget to go ahead and enable encryption. If I do that, I will have an issue with respect to meeting my security standard, and even more important, meeting my compliance requirement. If that is the case, how do we ensure that we implement the right sort of controls right from the provisioning aspect? But it is also important that you also need to have reactive checks, right? The provisioning takes care of the proactive part, but with the flexibility that cloud provides, anybody can go to the portal, start changing the things. But when someone changes the parameters or configuration, how do we identify those configuration drift and provide you the recommendation, much needed recommendation to go ahead and fix that issue? I think that's more important. And that is what is covered in the SecOps module of CoreStack, being proactive, but equally making sure that every configuration drift is now taken care of. Now, if I have to just summarize all these three, it aligns with the well-architected framework. Now you can confidently say that every workload from an Amazon Workspaces perspective is now well-architected, right? That's the end goal. Now, just to give a view of how does it really look like from a continuous optimization perspective, I won't take much time, but just wanted to give you how is it being done in CoreStack. These are all the policies that we have, right? On the side, you see classification. It clearly says cost, security, operations. So now you're able to find out on a continuous basis. It's not one time, it's always continuous. You're continuously checking whether the workspace is unused or not, so that you can take operational actions, as well as it helps in cost optimization. Find out whether it is unhealthy workspaces. Can I implement auto remediation to go ahead and reboot it? Absolutely, yes. And that is exactly what happens in the unhealthy workspaces. So the same policies are extended, and we provide you recommendation in terms of what you can do to optimize from a cost perspective, operations, and security standpoint. Yeah. And how does it really look from a recommendation? These are the recommendations that I have for an account that we already created from a demo perspective, and I can go ahead and fix it because this provides me a notification, and now I can go ahead and take control of the entire workspace that I have deployed. So with that, I will take a pause. And as Paul mentioned, we do have a workbook which provides you a set of guidelines of how to use it, how to use workspaces in the way that you can and unleash the power. So it is an ebook. CoreStack.io/workspaces is the link. So go ahead and potentially go ahead and download and use it for your own use. Yep. So with that, I'll take a pause and move on to QA. Parul.
Thank you, Venki, and all the wonderful speakers, Nitish and Shalu. Really enjoyed. And I can see because there are about more than 17 questions already on the Q&A chat. So I'm sure people are curious to learn more. But thank you again for sharing your experiences, knowledge with the wider audience. With that, I will start the questions. I know, Nitish, thank you for answering them online as well. So Nitish has been also answering. So feel free, other panelists, feel free to answer them because I'm not sure if we can get to all 17 or 18 right now. The first one, which I thought was pretty, let me just kind of go through. I had that done. 1 second.
I'll read one out. This is closer to the Examity one, so the easy one. I'll take the easiest one. One was from Vittal on proctoring in the digital world. What if I take the test from home? That is one of the promises and the delivery of proctoring. You could actually take it from home, just as you would take it in a secure center. The rules of engagement are no one else available on the webcam view. We need to take a look at your desktop, all the programs on your computer, similar to this session, and we should be able to see you and hear you throughout the test. As long as those basics are covered, the test sponsors can add additional rules. In fact, we have thousands and thousands of users right now, not just last year and this year, but we have been doing since 2013. They take tests from home. You'd be surprised, tests like GMAT, people don't go to a place to take the test anymore. They, of course, have the flexibility to go to a center, but now they have the flexibility of choice. They could take it from any place, anytime. Examity's promise is providing a security blanket around it using the infrastructure we talked about from Amazon, the metering and the parameters set up by CoreStack, but we enable that environment for them to take a test conveniently from home. Oh, the second one is easy. Paul, this one was actually pretty easy. They said, looks like behind me there's a replica of the Resolute desk. The replica is in DC. This is the real one. Those are the two I got. So
Shalu, that's the one I was going to actually open up the question, but then I was trying to find it and it went into a different window because you answered yes. I thought that was a very clever question, and thanks for sharing, Shalu, the information on that. Yes, your desk and your office looks pretty awesome. So thank you for your answers. Let's go to some of the other questions. Again, in my window, when it gets answered, it kind of goes into a different, so I might miss it. But this is probably, 1 second. The question to Nitish, can you elaborate carrying over software licenses from one workspace to another workspace?
So in terms of software licenses, I had a quick follow-up question, actually. Are we talking about the CAL licenses that you have per user that you want to migrate over? Or is it, what exactly are we talking about? Because Workspaces by default has one user license. So you have to think of it as 1:1 relationship. So every user has only one single workspace. And you pay a particular amount, a very nominal amount for using a CAL license for one user, which is dedicated in your directory services. Let's say it's assigned to your directory services. It's dedicated to one user. Are we talking about porting it or not? So that's a follow-up question. So if you can answer that part, then I can come back to how license mobility works within Workspaces.
Sure. Thank you, Nitish. That's a clue for the person who posted that question. If you please do provide further insights so Nitish can be more specific in responding and providing you the right information. In the meantime, we'll go to the next one, Nitish. Again, it's for you. Is there a time frame for when WorkSpaces will support Server 2019 or 2022?
So that's a question that is being asked a lot. And again, there's things that AWS release quite often. There's reInvent coming in. So I'll stop it there. I don't want to overcommit, nor I'll just stick to that, which is, there's things that are coming in the pipeline. So keep a lookout for what's new at AWS.
Yeah, I mean, reInvents are always fun events where a lot of new goodies get announced. So I can understand. Thank you for answering that question. One more, Nitish, for you. If WorkSpaces can fail over to another region, what about other shared resources in your VPC that WorkSpaces uses? I think that's a good one.
So all of the workspaces, when we're talking about a warm workspace, that is the whole VPC resources are something that you would have to have it in handy. And the only thing that changes is, obviously, it does not automatically fail over. It uses Route 53 or any of your DNS services that you are making use of, and that converts changes the DNS to be made use of a region that is not in use, or that is in a standby or a warm mode. So you have to make use of your DNS there. It automatically does not kind of fail over. So you should have resources, networking pieces, your VPCs set up as a part of your standby mode. I have shared a link that talks about that particular feature. Hopefully that should answer your remaining questions there.
Thank you, Nitish. Good advices. One more question, Nitish, for you. If you look at Workspace Calculator, it costs around $2,400 USD for 20 Linux machine with 4 vCore and 16 GB plus 100 GB user storage, which is around $1,200 USD a month. How can we optimize and minimize costs from here? And maybe Venki, you can also jump in, but definitely Nitish, if you want to take a stab at that first.
Right. So again, that's a very specific question. I would have to go into the billing specifics of a 4-core versus 20 Linux machines and stuff like that. But to answer in a broader level, we talked about your bundles. Are you sure if that is the right type? Then there is a solution that can be deployed in terms of usage. And I think Venki was talking about that. Data is important, and that is where CoreStack comes into picture. I guess not all workspaces should be running in a monthly model. It can be an hourly model. With an hourly model, there is something called as auto stop your workspaces. So if CloudWatch alarms are triggered saying that there is a particular user, even though you say start this workspace at 9 and at 5, but let's say there is no activity for more than couple of minutes or 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever, you can trigger alarms that can either have a Lambda or any of the services that AWS has to auto stop the workspace. That's one way I have recommended a lot of customers. And then all of the best practices that we shared both between AWS and and CoreStack, if all of them are followed, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to save costs. So Venki,
thanks, Nitish. Venki, anything more?
Yeah, I think Nitish, you have pretty much covered everything. I mean, and that's why I always say data is very, very important. Because we do know that when we want to implement workspace, we have our own way of architecting things, but we need to potentially improve and optimize based on the recommendations that we get from the data, right? And that is precisely what we do to make sure that you are always you are put into a mode where you get recommendations and you are continuously optimizing your setup, right? Because in a month, all of a sudden the usage can be high. In the next month, it can be low. And similarly, the following month, it can be high, right? It could be a seasonal, it may not be seasonal. So we want to make sure that, even the recommendations are provided in a way that you're able to automatically adjust and optimize throughout the journey when you're consuming Amazon workspaces.
May I add a dimension, I think, from a customer angle for this topic, Venki and Nitish? When books became Kindle, people didn't really understand the transition. It took them some time. How does a book become a Kindle when you can carry the library with you? The mindset also had to change in how you carry your proverbial books, because you could carry the whole library. I think when you buy workspaces, you're not buying a computer, because a one-time computer buy has to be decided at that time. All the decisions have to come one time because they'll depreciate over 3 years. This works completely different. I think the way to think about it is you cannot reverse engineer innovation. You'll have to change the mindset on the infrastructure side, the compliance side, the financial side, and say there is a elasticity to it that needs some education awareness. So as you guys have done it for us, educating infrastructure team inside the customer is an important step. And if you're trying to onboard this, you have to take away the mindset of buying a computer versus configuring the computer. I think simple language, but I think significantly important to know. You can increase, decrease, adjust, remove on demand. Gives you a ton of flexibility. So the thinking mindset has to change. We went through that, so I can speak from experience. We were not buying 3,000 computers. We were configuring 3,000. That could go to 1,000 or 5,000. So that mindset shift is an important aspect from a customer angle.
Thank you. We only have 3 more minutes left, but Nitish, quickly, the person has provided further information on what type of software. I think they're saying software like Office software. So
Office software, so it depends on the bundle. So if you're specifically looking at applications that are more, Microsoft Office specific, it is a part of the bundle. When you select that bundle, you have some deployed Office, applications, and for that you don't have to worry about. That's tied to the particular user. And let's say if you have to re-provision a workspace, if you have to delete that workspace, create a new one, you don't have to worry about porting it, because that's automatically tied within the bundle, and the bundle is tied to a user. So it's again 1:1 relationship there. So you don't have to worry about porting it over if you're using Amazon provided licenses by default within the bundle. Does that
Thanks,
kind
Nitish.
of yeah.
I think we are just about on the time. What I'll do is I'll type in the chat my email ID, that is parul@corestack.io. I'm happy to please reach out to me. I'll reach out to all the panelists to get you the right responses if your questions are not answered here. Nitish, maybe I can take a couple more small ones and one for Venki, and I'll hand it over to Shalu at the end to really summarize the true benefit here from a customer, right? You have AWS, which are hyperscalers, and you have, the ISVs such as, CoreStack, which are building on top of the hyperscaler. But how is a customer benefiting and using? So I'll definitely hand it over to Shalu to wrap it up. But before that, how can you explain EC2? This is for Nitish. EC2 instance over workspace. At times we feel EC2 is cheaper. Again, I think the cost is coming in more and more. So right. Nitish, you have more, because I think there was also a question around the AppStream or, workspaces. So do you want to take like a 30 seconds? Yeah.
Sure. I can explain the differences pretty quick here. So EC2 is a server, whereas a workspace is a desktop experience. That's the primary difference. It's a desktop experience, whereas EC2, it feels like you're logging into a server, even though workspaces uses server editions behind the scenes. It overlays it with a desktop experience, so it looks like you're working on a desktop more than logging into an EC2 server. So that's the primary difference. And the other difference is the feasibility and usability of it. For EC2 instance, the only thing that you can do for a Windows, I'm assuming here, is you log into an RDP session, and obviously the networking pieces around it. But workspaces are more like a client server model, wherein you can make use of your tablets, you can make use of your iPads, you can make use of your different laptops, and just use a client to connect to a server. So here we are talking about connect to a workspace. So here we are talking about a client server model where you will have an end user experience which is missing on an EC2 instance, and obviously cost might be something that might come into picture here as well. But it's basically treating it as one is a desktop experience, one is a server. So that's the primary difference. I think there's another question, Parul. I'll quickly take 30 seconds to answer it. Would be workspaces and AppStream. Both of them are a part of end user services. One is persistent, meaning, let's say I log into WorkSpaces, make changes, and I drop off or shut off. And when I start it back up, it's the same workspace that is being assigned to me, whereas AppStream is more application streaming. So the backend EC2 instance that is spinning up the workspaces environment changes. So every time you log off and you connect back in, or you terminate and you connect back in, AppStream, there's a new server that gets generated behind the scenes, but the application is persistent. The data might or might not be persistent, but application is persistent. But for workspaces, everything is persistent. Your data is persistent. The server in which you're logging in is persistent. So that's the very primary difference between AppStream and workspaces. So AppStream, the best use case would be if you are having any applications that you're making use of. For example, every time you log in, you need a Zoom application to start with. Then you take meetings through that. Then AppStream is a better use case than having a workspace. But let's say if you want to have a persistent experience, a development experience for your developers, AppStreams might not work, which is more of application streaming. Workspace is the answer for you. So that's the primary difference.
And thanks, Nitish. There's also, since you were talking the same line, there's also questions around the performance, right, on Workspace to run applications. Do you have like a...
So again, it depends on the bundle type and the configuration that you select. Based on the configuration, you can run, you can have your applications running without any performance issues. Workspaces also support, high-end graphic intensive workloads as well. So if your requirement is to run, high memory, high, graphic enabled use cases, can also be supported on Workspaces, but just that you would have to choose a graphics bundle rather than a general purpose bundle. So based on the use case, you have to select the right bundle and spin up your workspace to support the performance that you're craving for.
Thanks, Nitish, for all the answers. Shalu, I would love to hear, the audience would love to hear from a customer before we wrap it up.
Customer is always king, right? So why not? We get the prime spot. If you think about, there's this amazing toolkit that Amazon brings in, the digital desktops, be it Workspaces, AppStreams that are based on your use case. There's partners like CoreStack who help us understand the language. I'll tell you what a key takeaway for a company or customer like Examity is, who owes it to our consumers, the test takers. Essentially is, from a focus area, I'll zone in on what we got as a benefit off the bat using the technology of Amazon, but tailored and configured and supported, guided by CoreStack. Cost savings was the number one, easiest and biggest. When a company like Examity, which has seen what we have seen last year, where everyone was mandated to be home and be remote, this was the only way you could take a test, which meant our scaling went northwest in the right direction that the business wants to go. This helped us, by CoreStack doing what they do best, create the environments for us to deliver operations at scale. Amazon did what they did best, which is educate us on these are the options for you, and you have a partner to help you navigate. Financial outcomes for an immediate return. Security was what we did not realize as a benefit, but what we learned over time. And internal learning as a recommendation is for businesses like ours, play to your strengths. I think there's so much depth to what Nitish and Venki covered today. There's no possible way. They do this 365, 24/7, all day, all night across the globe. This is what they do. One creates the tools, that's Amazon. One helps configure and run the tools. Businesses like ours, especially in education space, there's a lot of online growth. If we stay focused on our zone of enabling flawless consumer experiences on education delivery, be it assessments, proctoring, analytics, interoperability. One thing I would say is the outcomes that we have seen are significant financial benefit in the tune of many millions right off the bat. As soon as we onboarded, we saw the benefits because it was a vehicle we did not know how to operate. I remember Venki and Nitish in a meeting like this 14 months ago, telling us, you have a great idea how to run Examity. You have no idea how to run this. Let us do this for you. Why don't you take care of that? that was refreshing. I think there's no pride in trying to be an expert in things you're not. So trust the right partners who help you navigate the journey. Learn before you onboard. Don't play with something that you don't understand, because the partners are exclusively built for that purpose. Hyperscalers on one end, partners who understand hyperscalers on the other end are your real allies. So for the audience, as a customer, I'll tell you, it helped Examity stay in the focus of its business as it was scaling very, very high. It gave us a competitive edge. It gave us an operational edge. But most importantly, it told our consumers, we are innovating not in a silo. We innovate together with our partners like CoreStack and our providers like Amazon. So it helped us look great. Of course, we got all the credit. I think we shared some to you guys, but we keep most of the credit as customers. But that's what our takeaway is. You guys have helped us look great. So for CoreStack and Amazon, your participation, not just in a conference like this, but on a daily basis on the field, helping my team, who's my voice internally, they've always said the best things about you. Always exceeded expectations as CoreStack. And from Amazon, they have been extremely collaborative. They visited our offices in Examity as early as September this year. So that active engagement is done not just as a token, but they do it and believe it every day. So for CoreStack and Amazon, more than a takeaway for me, I wanted to offer up my gratitude for helping. What you're doing is directly translating into better learners in education. So as a teacher, your service is not just configuring a computer or helping us buy 3,000 digital computers. You are contributing to inclusive education globally, and you should walk away with that satisfaction that you're contributing directly to education. And we thank you for doing that for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Shalu. Thank you, Venki. Thank you, Nitish. And thank you, audience.